I'm sorry to say that this just confirms my bias. I saw this story about the National Guard being dumped in a garage, and I said, sounds about right for Congress. For those that didn't hear the story, quote, we feel incredibly betrayed. Thousands of guardsmen forced to vacate Capitol. This one got me really angry. You know, we did the IRL podcast last night, and after we were leaving, I saw the story breaking that after these men and women were sent to D.C. on, a ridiculous mission, 25,000 troops, to protect the inauguration, that I can respect, but 25,000 troops, a bit nuts. After I saw this story, that after all that, after the handshaking and the smiling and the photographs and the thank you men and women of the armed forces, they put them in a parking garage. There was no bathroom. There was no power outlet. And they were told to sleep in a garage. I despise these people so much. Congress, not the National Guard. The National Guard I love and respect. The people who are willing to stand at attention and say, I'm here for you. I'll protect you. And it's my job. I'm not going to pretend that every single person who joins the armed forces is some kind of hero. For many of these people, it's a job. But to be willing to say, I trust and respect, the system. I will follow orders and do as I'm told because I trust in this country and the chain of command. I respect that. The intentions of these people to do their job to make sure we are all safe. Congress, despicable, wealthy. It's like the Hunger Games, man. You know what? Let me read you this story from Politico. Guardsmen were later let back in. Sure. Thousands of National Guardsmen were allowed back into the Capitol. Oh, I'm sorry. Thursday night, hours after U.S. Capitol police officials ordered them to vacate the facilities, sending them outdoors or to nearby parking garages after 2 weeks pulling security duty after the deadly riot on January 6th. One unit, which had been resting in the Dirksen Senate office building, was abruptly told to vacate the facility on Thursday, according to one guardsman. The group was forced to rest in a nearby parking garage without internet reception, with just one electrical outlet and one bathroom with 2 stalls for 5,000 troops, the person said. Temperatures in Washington were in the low 40s by nightfall. After everything that we've been going through, I can believe it. No, I want to say I can't believe it. No, I can believe it. These people are disgusting. The Republicans and Democrats alike. Now, to be fair, there were many Republicans who spoke out against this, who were outraged by this, and rightly so. It really seems, what we've seen. Most of the Democrats are establishment, urban, spoiled brats. Most Republicans are as well, but there's slightly more Republicans who are willing to say, dude, no to something like this. Quote, yesterday, dozens of our senators and congressmen walked down our lines taking photos, shaking our hands, and thanking us for our service. Within 24 hours, they had no further use for us and banished us to the corner of a parking garage. We feel incredibly betrayed, the guardsman said. Politico obtained photos showing the guard members packed together in the parking garage, sleeping on the ground with only one bathroom for 5,000 people. I don't even think that's legal for any business in this country, let alone the people who are supposed to be protecting us. I'm sorry, let alone for the people who are literally protecting us. Now, never mind the ridiculous narratives they put out about why they were going to need crew-manned machine guns, Nancy Pelosi. I kid you not. Apparently, the story is that they wanted all these troops there guarding everybody, but then realized, wait a minute, the National Guard might be loyal to the people and not a bunch of millionaires who have been siphoning off the value and the working and the labor from the value of the labor, the value of the working class in this country. Man, I can't believe it. All National Guard troops were told to vacate the Capitol and nearby congressional buildings on Thursday and to set up mobile command centers outside or in nearby hotels, another guardsman confirmed. They were told to take their rest breaks during the 12-hour shifts outside and in parking garages, the person said. Top lawmakers from both parties took to Twitter to decry the decision. So my respect to Chuck Schumer. And call for answers after Politico first reported the news Thursday night, with some even offering their offices to be used as rest areas. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer tweeted, if this is true, it's outrageous. I will get to the bottom of this. Serious respect to Chuck Schumer, not a guy I'm a big fan of, but saying this. And Tom Cotton noted that the Capitol complex remains closed to members of the public, so there's plenty of room for troops to take a break in them. By 10 p.m., Senator Martin Heinrich, a Democrat of New Mexico, said the situation was being resolved and that guardsmen would be able to return indoors later in the night. Just made a number of calls and have been informed Capitol Police have apologized to the guardsmen and they will be allowed back into the complex tonight, added Senator Tammy Duckworth. So let me walk back what I said about Democrats. A lot of Democrats stepped up to this one, and that was wrong of me. I'm glad that there is a bipartisan effort to give respect to these men and women. My brain exploded when I saw this story. The idea that you would enlist, that you would sign up for this job as our frontline defense, or whatever, look, serving in the military, I have tremendous respect for it. And then you have to take orders from these plutocrats who don't care about you, who would send you off to a parking garage. I'm glad to see that they're both Democrats and Republicans decrying this. Tammy Duckworth said she'll keep checking to make sure that they're, taken care of. A guard source confirmed late Thursday night that all troops in the parking garages were ordered to return inside the Capitol. Brigadier General Janine Burkhead, the Guard's inauguration task force commander, confirmed in a statement to Politico a little after midnight that the troops are out of the garage and back into the Capitol as authorized by the USCP Watch commander. They will take their breaks near Emancipation Hall going forward. In a statement, Capitol Police spokesperson Eva Malecki said the department recently asked the troops' shift be reduced from 12 hours to 8 hours in order to allow for additional rest hours away from the Capitol complex. The statement did not explain why the guardsmen were forced into parking garages. Guardsmen who spoke with Politico were not given a clear reason why they were asked to vacate the buildings. The first guardsman said it may have been that due to a complaint that some troops were not wearing masks, but denied that was the case. We have strict guidance that masks are to be worn at all times unless soldiers are eating and drinking, the guardsman said. There are photos from the Capitol building. They ain't wearing masks. And you know what? I'll be honest. I don't care. Because if you really think there's some great threat and someone's going to storm in or whatever, and I have to choose between a National Guard that's going to protect us from death, like violence, or maybe people coughing and being in tight confined space, I'm going to take the dudes who are there for the immediate threat. Look, yeah, COVID is a problem. I get it. You should wear masks and all that stuff. But listen, if I had to prioritize what my concerns would be, it wouldn't be whether they're wearing masks or not. I'd just stay away. Now, I would have a concern that maybe they can get each other sick, but these people are not in the affected group, so the likelihood they get sick is actually close to zero. Quote, as Congress is in session and increased foot traffic and business is being conducted, Capitol Police asked the troops to move to their rest area. BS. They said that the building was still closed to the public. Guard leadership did not make the decision and are doing their best to provide rest, shelter for troops who are still on 12-hour shifts protecting the Capitol and congressional grounds. Can I ask a question? Why, though? Why? What are they guarding it from? I mean, we're done, right? Is there a threat? Sure, maybe, whatever. I get they might want to linger around for a little bit and just, let things taper off. They say, quote, there really may be an important reason for us to vacate, and it just hasn't been well communicated, a second guardsman said. The troops are particularly concerned about being packed in tight quarters with limited bathroom access during a pandemic. At least 100 guardsmen have tested positive for COVID-19, according to two guardsmen. Some are quarantining in hotels. Well, there you go. A spokesperson previously declined to provide specific number for troops who have tested positive for the virus. It's interesting. I saw one quote where they said, we went from crewman machine guns to having their magazines removed from their rifles because Democrats were scared of the National Guard. That's amazing, isn't it? They wanted them all vetted. It has been nothing but a constant slap in the face being spat on for these men and women in uniform. First, they're told that they can't be trusted by the likes of Cuomo, CNN. They're told that Pelosi and these other Democrats want them vetted because they can't be trusted. Reports were going around that they were concerned. Did any of these people vote for Donald Trump? Because we should probably figure out if they did. Some of these people apparently posted memes and were members of the NRA. Some apparently had Gadsden flags. You know, the Gadsden, don't tread on me, a symbol of the American Revolution. And for that, more than a dozen, maybe even more, were removed from the mission because of the paranoia of these unhinged Democrats. Because they would tell the National Guard, we don't trust you. So forgive me, my first gut reaction was Democrats didn't care about what was going on. That was probably biased of me. And so I'll respect the Democrats who called for this to be ended. But, whoever was the person who made these men and women leave in such a way it's horrifying. It is. It should never happen. It should never have happened. Now, look, there's a concern about whether or not these people are going to side with Trump or do something like that. But I really think it's all just overhyped. I saw one post. Somebody was a veteran, a media personality who served. They said these men and women would follow the chain of command before any civilian or Donald Trump on his way out. You know what I mean? Like, basically what they're saying is, with Donald Trump leaving the White House, the Guard is going to follow their chain of command. They trust the people in their units and their immediate supervisors more than they would, say, a leaving president. The idea that these people were somehow a threat to this country, I think, is a slap in the face and an insult. However, there were many people who stormed the Capitol who were former or currently active duty. Now, I do want to mention that, but I want to point out something I actually am impressed with. Governor Chris Sununu of New Hampshire has ordered the immediate return of the New Hampshire National Guard after a report they slept in a parking garage. The New York Times reported Thursday the soldiers brought in for Wednesday's inauguration were forced to sleep in an unheated parking garage after being jettisoned from the Capitol. He says, "I've ordered the immediate return of all New Hampshire National Guard from Washington, D.C. They did an outstanding job serving our nation's capital in time of strife and should be graciously praised, not subject to substandard conditions." Bravo, good sir, I agree. And to the men and women who served and sought to protect the Capitol, my respect. And just in general to veterans in the military, I deeply respect the armed forces. Now, that being said, check this out. Nearly 1 in 5 of the more than 140 MAGA riders charged so far in the Capitol siege has served in the military. They say so far around 140 people have been arrested and charged in connections with the riots on January 6th. Around 20% have military backgrounds, but not all of them are active duty. Among them is Larry Rendell Brock Jr., an Air Force veteran who was seen donning a tactical helmet and vest while carrying flex cuffs inside the Capitol. Some veterans who were accused of laying siege to the Capitol are still serving. Jacob Fracker was an infantry rifleman in the Marine Corps and deployed to Afghanistan twice, who now works in the Virginia National Guard. Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran from San Diego, was shot and killed. More suspects are still being sought in relation to the riot. All right, I get it. There are some people who had served, and so you had, I guess, Democrats freaking out that there would be some people in the National Guard who would turn on. But I just think it's insane. I really do. Look, I get that there was a current active duty guy. I think there was like one or two. But you have mostly veterans. It's an interesting question. It's an interesting conundrum. I want to segue into this talk about the crewman machine guns, because we did do a segment on this on the IRL podcast that I think should be brought up in this context. Ken Cuccinelli claims Pelosi asked for crew-manned machine guns. I'm assuming, that means some kind of belt-fed, full auto, 2 guys, 1 guy shooting, 1 guy holding the belt to make sure it doesn't jam. And think about what that means. That means that Nancy Pelosi, her gut reaction to a mostly unarmed storming of the Capitol, with many people bumbling and bewildered, was to mow them down in a hail of automatic gunfire. All right, maybe a little bit over the top, but think about it. Think about what D.C. would be like if they had crewman machine guns on street corners. What does she think is going to happen? A large group of angry Trump supporters would be marching down the street, and then they would just go and just wipe them all out. Random people, unarmed people, old women. What about the collateral damage to slamming into buildings, both residential and commercial? This is nuts. I can't stand politicians, man. And there's a lot of problems with our government. And how do you find people who are actually qualified and are and qualification, by what I mean is not just capable, but willing, not just able to do the job, but wanting to do the right thing for the American people? How do you find these people? The challenge is we only have a handful. And most of the people that are in Congress are ultra wealthy. They get propped up by lobbyists and corporate interests. And that's the problem of our political system. Or I think it's the main problem. We've heard a lot from people like, say, the Young Turks or Bernie Sanders getting money out of politics. And I 100% agree. But how do you do it? I just don't know. I just don't know that you can. So what ends up happening, you get people like Nancy Pelosi, whose net worth on her own, I think, is only like 14 million. Haha. But with her husband, it's in like 200 million or so. You've got a majority of Congress, my understanding, millionaires. And George Carlin said it. They're millionaires and they don't care about you. They don't care about you. You're a number. It's a game. The lobbyists come in, the special interests come in, and they say, we'll give you the money you need to manipulate enough people to win. That's the name of the game. You know, maybe it used to be at some point shaking hands and expressing your ideas, but the system's really devolved in a lot of ways. I still think this country is the best on the planet in terms of our three branches. And we've really laid the groundwork for, to the best of our abilities, a good justice system, which has its problems I complained about last night, and upward mobility, and the idea that you can be a bartender and become a member of Congress. There's two problems here. You look at someone like AOC. She comes from somewhat humble beginnings. And then she uses social media to become a careerist, gets elected, and really just doesn't have any idea what she's doing or how the economy works. And then she gets a bunch of people rallying behind her. Why? Because she whispers sweet nothings into their ears and rallies them. I can say a lot of the same applies to Trump. Trump's gone now, so I'm not sure that matters all that much. But Donald Trump at least had international business experience and was particularly successful. They like to point out a few bankruptcies in his more than 500 businesses. And I'm sorry, that's just ridiculous. Now, what do we get? Well, we have a Congress full of people that when it comes to election time, they look over charts and graphs. They look at what do I have to say to get the most support? Does it matter what you think or what you're experiencing or what you're going through? The answer is no. Does it matter what the American public wants? No. And apparently that's true for Trump as well, because Trump could have pardoned Julian Assange or Edward Snowden or Ross Ulbricht or Reality Winner. He didn't do it, even though there was tremendous popular support left and right for doing it. And that's ultimately the issue I take with all of these people. I don't think they care. I don't think they're here to help you get through, all of these struggles and to solve these problems. I think many of these people have realized long ago that the system is too complicated and too large to actually do anything about. And so they just want to get the keys to the castle. Let me into the building. Give me that sweet pension. Give me a salary and make me famous. And then I'll write a book, make a ton of money, influence government for the lobbyists and for the special interests. And then, of course, I'll retire. After 30 or 40 years, well, in Joe Biden's case, he actually just becomes the president, I suppose. But has anything gotten done? You look at Joe Biden's legacy, and there's a lot of waffling, right? You can go back 30 years, and he's pro-segregation or whatever, and the crime bill in 1994. And it makes you wonder what the dude actually believes in, what his actual principles are. I can look at Ron Paul and be like, I've got a good idea of what that guy thinks needs to be done. I can look at Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Nancy Pelosi and be like, I got no idea what they want other than power. Power. So, of course, what happens when these people are confronted with, say, the National Guard? Oh, heavens, the rabble in our building? Oh, harumph, I say. I'm reminded of that story. It was about Hillary Clinton, and she was in an Air Force vehicle being, carried to some location or whatever. And this dude claimed that she held up a wine glass and went to Air Force ranking, like to Air Force officers who are like on this plane. There's like mechanics and like a captain, and their job is to fly an Air Force vehicle, not serve Hillary Clinton and give her wine. And she holds her glass up and goes, and they look at her like, does she really expect us to pour wine for her? That's who these people are. That was I believe that was in some book. That's the name of the game with all of this. That's why I never understood why anybody would enlist. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything like that. But I'm really surprised that there are people willing to volunteer to take orders from these people. I couldn't do it. I would not do it. I can respect the armed forces, wanting to serve and protect and all that stuff. But I could not sit there and be like, oh, okay, Nancy Pelosi, whatever you say. And that's what it feels like. That's where we're at today. You know, that's just what's going to probably keep happening. Maybe at some point the National Guard loses confidence or the armed forces loses confidence and then it just starts to fall apart. That's a fear they were having right now. Think about what it means that they were saying they needed to vet these National Guard, that they needed to remove them, take away their weapons. Think about what that means. They're scared. They're scared that finally regular people and the working class and even National Guardsmen are like, we don't view you as legitimate. I mean, it should be scary for all of us. We don't want a military coup in any sense of the, in any form. But what happens at some point when the military high-ranking officers just say, we're not doing it. I'm not sending my National Guardsmen down to your capital to be put in a parking garage. Ain't going to happen. What happens when all of them just say, nah? What happens when they really do defy orders? I don't think they would. Like I said, there was a conservative commentator, veteran, who was like, they wouldn't do it. They'll do their duty. But I have to wonder about where we're heading as a country when things like this are happening. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.